Hey, I was just thinking about the sort of experiences of a martial artist, maybe the life experiences. I think maybe the first or most familiar experience we have as a martial artist is the experience of being a student. So that's a role that we first inhabit and we know quite well, and perhaps we stay with for a long time. And then the teacher is the next role that we inhabit. Maybe not the next, but on my number of fingers I have, it's next. And of course, not everybody becomes a teacher, but quite often people inhabit to some extent the teaching role. So they run a warm up or they help another, student in the class learn a technique or review a technique. And you certainly help by holding the pads and sparring against somebody and so forth. So that can be like a teaching role. And it might feel like a reminder role, but it's a teacher role. It's a type of teacher role. And of course, some people become teachers or career teachers. So we have the student, we have the teacher. And these are ways that we embody and express and experience our martial arts. A third way is in reality, right? Meaning, like, I have to defend myself. Maybe there's a bunch of different ways that we use our martial arts in reality, like how I pick up a heavy box or how I pay attention to my surroundings and avoid a conflict. But let's just think here for the moment anyway about I had to fight off a mugger and I had to use my sidekick or something or my combo number 3. Great. So we have a student, we have a teacher, we have a real life expression, embodiment, experience of the martial arts. We also have competition, or we could say competition or rank testing or promotion. So in other words, the pressure cooker. Everybody's watching, you have to do it perfectly, you're being judged. But it's not real. Like, I'm not really hitting somebody or something. It's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, but it's not real in terms of I'm not trying to harm somebody for real. I'm not protecting my life. So we have the student, we have the teacher, and all the ways that you might be a teacher. We have the real life, the real life or death, let's say, conflict. We have the competition. And then we also have, and I think we kind of forget this, the play role of the martial arts. So this might look for me as a Tai Chi Chuan person like push hands, like I'm just pushing with somebody. And maybe in there's some elements of being a student. I'm learning something. There might be elements of being a teacher, like I'm sharing a technique. There might be elements of competition, like we're kind of seeing who's doing what. There might be elements of the real, like they're not very controlled or attentive, and that's overpowerful, and I actually have to defend this. Of course, I shouldn't have to, but that can happen. But basically, it's its own thing. And to be a student, which might be, hopefully it is, what you remain even if you're a career teacher, or you get to inhabit that role with some regularity, like kind of purely inhabit the role with some, you probably always in the role to some extent, even as you teach, but maybe kind of purely inhabit the role, just take somebody else's class and that's it, like put your white belt on, as it were. So this has its benefits, its challenges, right? This has its benefits, its challenges, and they're different than this. The student and the teacher are different. Certainly some things overlap. The real life thing has its challenges and it has its benefits. Like, hey, I kept you from stealing my stuff. I kept myself alive. I protected my son. Competition has its benefits, has its challenges, right? You get to practice, being judged. You get to practice trying to do something on command when you're called up and bow and it's time for you to, show your form before the test. So there's pros and cons here that you're not really going to get here, here, or here. And there's pros and cons here that you won't really get here or here. And there's pros and cons here in this sort of play, in the shared collegial, relatively equal footing play, where we're experiencing, embodying, expressing our art without really being judged, without trying to save my life, without really trying to learn, without really trying to teach, but just to express it. And I think remembering all five and seeking to have some balance in all five is what may be missing in a lot of martial artists. Am I talking about you? Let me know in the comments down below. Remember, like and subscribe. Oh, it seems silly to say that. All right, much love. Thanks.